Do you notice that every relationship that you're in, you find yourself with an emotionally immature man? Are you ready to try again? Stay tuned to the end of this episode and I'll share 5 traits of an emotionally mature man. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Own Your Ship podcast. If you've seen the title of this episode, then you already know what we're talking about. We're talking about emotionally mature men. All right, brothers, if I'm right on this, I'm right. If I'm wrong, you could tell me I'm wrong in the comments. But we're talking about emotional maturity today. When it comes to relationships, emotional maturity is important. It's so easy for us to get caught up in the looks and the charm and all that stuff. But in reality, without the emotional maturity, none of that stuff matters. So I want to share with you today 5 traits of an emotionally mature man. Now, the first point, he takes responsibility for his actions. Emotionally mature men understand that they are responsible for their own actions and they take ownership of their mistakes. This is such a huge quality for the simple fact that not too many people like to take ownership of their stuff. Well, you know the title of this podcast is called the Own Your Shit podcast. It's all about owning your part in your relationships. So finding someone who is mature enough to own their part is a huge deal. I think it's something about us as humans where we don't like the idea of not being right. And when we're not right, we tend to put on this facade to try to convince people otherwise. That's not very mature. Let's move on to the next point. Point number 2, he's able to communicate effectively. I know some of y'all women over there now like super excited because being able to find someone who can communicate is such a beautiful thing. Someone who's able to express their thoughts and feelings in a clear and constructive way, and someone who's also a good listener and wants to understand the perspective of others is a huge trait of someone who is emotionally mature. Now, before we get into the next point, what are some other traits of an emotionally mature man? If you know, let me know in the comments. I want us to have a conversation there about it. Let's jump back in. Point number 3, he is self-aware. Emotionally mature men are aware of their own strengths and weaknesses, and they work to improve themselves. Let me use an example. A man who will show up to the gym every day, knowing that it's going to require hard work, knowing that his body is going to ache, knowing that there are just some things that are going to be difficult for him to do. A man like that shares some capacity of emotional maturity because he could easily quit after going once and feeling the burn. He could quit, but because he knows what he wants in the end, he's willing to put that work in. He's willing to feel the burn. He's willing to do what it takes to get the results that he wants. That's mature. And point number 5, finally, the last point, he's able to support you emotionally. He's there for you during difficult times and doesn't shy away from emotional conversations. He's also able to celebrate your successes with you. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've seen it all over social media where there's some men who are just intimidated by a woman and her successes. If she's too successful, he can't be with her because, well, that doesn't work for him. An emotionally mature man is not going to not want to be with you because of your successes. He's going to encourage that. He's going to embrace it. And more than anything, he's going to be on your side. A man who is willing to express his emotions and not care about how he's viewed is an emotionally mature man. It's not easy, especially in the climate that we live in, when men are taught to keep their emotions to themselves, or men don't cry, or, man up. To live in a society like that and still be able to live your truth and express your emotions the way you feel fit as a man without care or regard for how people will take you is emotional maturity. So these are some of the points that I wanted to share with you today. And I want you to remember that no relationship is perfect and every relationship requires some work. Don't quit a relationship just because the person you're with doesn't have all these qualities. Remember, as time goes on, people are learning, they're growing, they're evolving. And because you're a part of this person's support, you can also help that person get to that next point on their maturity journey. So you guys already know I love to keep my videos short and sweet. So if you enjoyed this week's episode, I want you to go ahead and check out some of the other ones. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to rate and review because it helps the podcast get to listeners who may not even know it exists. So thank you guys for your support. I look forward to seeing y'all next week. Take care.